Welcome to this explainer. What if I told you that building massive wealth, like true walk away whenever you want financial freedom, doesn't actually require some glamorous, high profile career? It really doesn't. Today, we're looking at a very specific set of totally under the radar, honestly, kind of boring skills. But here's the secret: these are quietly positioned to pay you literally more than a doctor by the time 2026 rolls around.
Okay, let's dive into this. For generations, we've all been sold this same idea, right? That hitting a top tier income absolutely requires grinding away a decade of your life and taking on massive, six-figure student loans just to get a fancy degree. But looking at the data, it tells a completely different story. The modern market has totally shifted. Today, companies are practically begging for people who can just step in and solve very specific, tedious problems. And they value that ability to execute so much more than just a piece of paper hanging on a wall.
The contrast here is just staggering. On one side, think about a doctor in 2026. You're looking at incredibly high stress, massive mountains of student debt, and these grueling hours where you're physically tied to a hospital. But then, on the flip side, look at the modern remote worker. They're operating from their living room, totally skipping the debt, and yet they still command this incredibly lucrative salary. Sure, they might be trading away that social prestige you get when you say, "I'm a doctor," but what they get in return is this profound, unmatched flexibility. So why exactly does this happen? Well, it really comes down to the counterintuitive power of being, well, boring. Think about it. Everyone lines up for those flashy, highly creative roles, the ones that sound amazing when you're talking about them at a dinner party. But because everyone wants them, that floods the market, which naturally drives down salaries. The highest paying modern jobs out there right now are actually the essential, super critical functions that absolutely nobody else is lining up for. And this brilliantly illustrates a reality that a lot of people miss. Extreme wealth is frequently hidden right in plain sight. It's buried deep in the unglamorous, everyday tasks that the vast majority of the workforce actively avoids. The people who are out there building true financial security, they aren't chasing the spotlight. Instead, they're leaning hard into the mundane, simply because businesses are more than willing to pay a massive premium just to get these tedious, complicated problems off their plates. All right, so where exactly should we be looking? Where is this happening? Now, while there are about 5 major skills really dominating this whole remote trend, we're going to pull back the curtain today and take a real deep dive into the top 3 most lucrative, high-demand roles. These are the exact positions that companies are absolutely desperate to fill right now. Let's move to and see how this builds, because here are the 3 highly lucrative paths we pulled straight from our research. We've got supply chain management, data auditing, and specialized technical sales. Now, I know, none of these sound like the premise of a blockbuster action movie, but trust me, these are the exact skills quietly unlocking modern wealth for people every single day. Let's break them down. First up on the list, we have supply chain management. Now, a lot of people just dismiss this as, tracking boxes, but you really need to think of it more like a secret superpower. Because if a company can't get their microchips from a supplier in Taiwan all the way to their factory in Texas, they are literally losing millions of dollars a day. So as a remote supply chain manager, your ability to step in and streamline that flow, it makes you entirely indispensable. You are essentially solving million-dollar logistical headaches. And believe me, your compensation is going to strongly reflect that. Next up is data auditing. Now, businesses today generate absolute mountains of data. But let's be real, it's usually a completely disorganized mess of duplicate entries and broken code. But what exactly does a data auditor do? Well, they go in, they clean up that mess, and they ensure total compliance. Sure, staring at spreadsheets all day might sound incredibly tedious to some, but businesses are paying top-tier salaries just to ensure their data is pristine. Why? Because just one bad, inaccurate data set can completely tank a quarterly earnings report. It's huge. And then we have specialized technical sales. This one is incredible. This is a 100% remote role where you're essentially acting as the bridge between highly complex enterprise software and corporate buyers. Now, sitting down and learning the intricate, nitty-gritty details of a massive software platform, yeah, it's not glamorous. But by doing that, you are quietly driving massive revenue completely behind the scenes. And the uncapped commission structures you find in these specialized fields, they can easily surpass the base salary of a specialized medical doctor. It's wild. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that when we put these roles side by side, a very clear pattern emerges right away. Across supply chain, auditing, and tech sales, there are 2 huge common denominators here. There is absolutely zero glamour, but you get total geographic flexibility. By stepping up and accepting the work that everyone else deems way too boring, you're essentially unlocking a location-independent lifestyle that those traditional, highly prestigious careers just simply cannot offer.
And honestly, that brings us to the real heart of this explainer today, because this isn't just about picking a job based on the daily tasks. It's really about shifting our entire narrative toward the ultimate emotional goal, and that is lifestyle design. It's about recognizing that the job itself, it's just a vehicle. Listen, you do not have to be deeply, passionately in love with auditing data or managing freight logistics. You just have to be deeply in love with the life that having those skills can actually provide for you.
So the crucial point is that consistent six-figure income that these roles provide. Think back to the past. Securing a reliable six figures almost always meant making massive, painful sacrifices in your personal life. But today, tapping into these specific remote skills gives you that exact same six-figure baseline, but entirely on your own terms. It's the ultimate financial foundation you need for actually taking control of your own time. It really boils down to this one simple equation. Boring jobs equal financial freedom. I mean, sure, the daily tasks might not give you some massive adrenaline rush, but the ultimate payoff here is absolute autonomy. When you're making doctor money without the crushing medical school debt, and you're doing it working from literally anywhere in the world, the boring part of your day suddenly becomes the absolute greatest investment you've ever made.
Which leads us to a final question as we wrap up this explainer. Are you ready to do the boring jobs that absolutely no one else wants to do? If you truly want that exceptional lifestyle flexibility, you've got to be willing to do the unglamorous work that the masses just run away from. The wealth is sitting right there, ready for the taking. So the only question left is whether you are willing to embrace the boring to finally unlock your ultimate freedom.